Hello everybody. The title of this video is Looking Back on the Way to Jellico from LaFollette. I started this video in the parking lot downtown LaFollette. I have the camera hooked to the back window of the automobile. I'm recording this video in 720p60. I'm using a GoPro, and I have the setting on super wide. You'll notice when you use the GoPro, there's a trade-off in the quality of the video, and the trade-off is really not that much. You get a slight fisheye effect, but as you've probably already guessed, I have slowed this video down and lost absolutely no quality in the video. Some of my stops will be a little longer than normal because rather than to edit this out, I thought I'd just let it run. These videos are the easiest kind to do. It takes quite a while to do them, but I don't edit them. I was going to put music behind this, but you're kind of limited because of the copyright laws. YouTube has several thousand tracks that they will let you use on your YouTube videos, but and some of them are pretty good, but I prefer not to use them on a long video. And rather than just to put this video out there with no audio, I'm going to more or less give you a commentary or a play-by-play. And if you just want to watch the visual portion, you can always turn the volume down. This is old for you folks that are not from around here that like to watch videos like this. This is old 25W North. It's Tennessee Avenue in LaFollette. This bridge is, I don't know how new it is, but there used to be a metal bridge across the creek. If you were looking forward from the automobile, you'd see what they call the Big Rock. We turn left on 25W North. This is known as the Dixie Highway. Before the interstate was built, this was the major route from up into Michigan on down into Florida. I've traveled this highway. If I had a nickel for every time I've been on this highway, I'd probably be on an island somewhere drinking coconut milk. But this is a pretty highway. There are some places on the highway that are not maintained, but as a general rule, the scenery through here is is really pretty. If you're not from this area and you're ever driving either north or south on 75, Interstate 75, you can exit at Caravel and go north, or you can exit up there at Jellico, where we're going, and go south on 25W. When I get to Jellico, I come back on the Interstate 75 South, and that will be another video, and I'll call that one from looking back going to Caravel from Jellico, and then I'll do one called looking back going to LaFollette from Caravel. So I'll make 3 videos out of this video. You've probably noticed, I may mention this, I don't know if I did or not. I slowed this video down. When you record at 60 frames per second, like I'm doing this, you can get some good quality slow motion out of your videos. I more or less did this video today to test that function because I had never recorded a road video in 720 p60 high def. This is not a 1080p video. I'm always amazed at how video has progressed over the last 5 or 6 years. When I look at the camera that recorded this video, it's just almost unbelievable. Makes you wonder what the limits are. I'm just jabbering because to put some audio on this video, so if you get bored, you can turn the volume down. But back to talking about cameras. And I've mentioned this before. Back when I went to work at Oak Ridge, if you had walked in down there at Oak Ridge with a GoPro camera and said, "Hey fellas, I'm from a planet from another solar system, and I'm going to prove it to you," and pull that little GoPro out and had a high-def flat screen computer monitor, they would have started asking you what the weather was like up there on that planet where you were from. When I went to work at Oak Ridge, we didn't have desktop computers. We had a terminal that was attached to a mainframe, and I can remember when we went to PCs on our desktop, I think it had a 40 megabyte hard drive in it, or either, I can't remember, but it was and it had DOS. It didn't even have Windows. And that was in the 80s. So that's how far we've progressed in the past few years. I was talking to someone the other day, and we were talking about companies like YouTube giving you unlimited storage space for your videos. At one time, that storage on a server was at a premium. But if you imagine you can go to the store and purchase an SD card up to 62 gig, what if you had a transfer truck full of those? How many gig would that be? You could store a lot of data. And you know that these companies now can store. I mean, storage is nothing anymore. Even slowing this down, it looks like we're going down the road 100 miles an hour. But believe you me, I was going the speed limit. But when I came down through here, let's see where we're at. I wanted to tell you where you turned off to go up on McLeod Mountain. We're almost there. But where's it at? We're almost there. But as I came down through here, I would count off the seconds. And in 2 seconds, this camera was taking 120 individual shots, snapshots, and combining them together for the video. And so what I've done is I've slowed the thing down in my editor to about 30 frames per second. Right here, you turn right to go up on McLeod's Mountain and go down to Duff right there. And we're going to go under the underpass. But what I'm trying to say is it's shooting 60 frames per second, and the higher the frame rate, the slower you can make your video in slow motion without losing quality. There we went under the underpass. I was up there at the B&B the other day, had a hamburger. You run into just about anybody there. Somebody told me they walked in there one day and John Ward was sitting in there with Mr. Bailiff years ago, before Mr. Bailiff passed away. Off to the left is where Rex Mine was at. My dad worked there for a while. In fact, that's the only place that he ever hurt himself. He bunged his ankle up over there. Rex was noted as a dangerous mine. I have a video that I did from the Peabody Cemetery They had a dedication up there on some miners who lost their life at wrecks. We're starting up Peabody Mountain, going north on, there's either somebody was drag racing or or something. Um, at the top of Peabody Mountain, you can cut left and go out there, and they have a viewing stand where you can look at the elk. I also have a video of that too. That road right there that we just passed goes up to Peabody Cemetery. When I see cars like this, I wonder if somebody will see the car and say, "Hey, I saw you on YouTube." There's another entrance to Peabody Cemetery that we just passed. We're getting ready to come on to the top of Peabody Mountain. You'll see a sign there by the TWRA folks. Placed a sign there talking about the elk. You couldn't see it. I've been on this road. I used to ride my bicycle on this road. I'd ride from my house in LaFollette to Jellico and back. I was working in Oak Ridge at the time, and there was a group of us that worked for Bechtel that were avid road bikers. I'm talking about the kind you pedal. And most of them down there at Oak Ridge, they enjoyed this ride more than any ride in this part up here. Sometimes we would go up the valley, but they liked this ride to Jellico. And you know, once you cross Peabody Mountain, you could make some good time on a bicycle because it was downhill most of the way, or it seemed like it was downhill. Of course, coming back, it was a lot harder coming back from Jellico than it was going to Jellico, to me. I remember one time I was going up through Peabody Mountain, and I had used all my water, and it was hot. Man, I thought I was going to croak before I got somewhere where I could get a bottle of water. It's difficult to talk for the amount of time that a video runs on a road video, especially when you're going through the mountains. There's not a lot to say. Goes the school bus. But people who like to watch videos like this, which includes me, I mean, they'll sit and watch these for an hour. I know I will. And I mentioned before that I like to watch the videos from Norway and Finland. If you're ever on Google Maps, and you want to see some beautiful country, go down to the road level in Norway and Finland. It's spectacular. I'd like to go over there in that part of the country and rent an automobile and just spend weeks just traveling around. There's a bridge that I've been noticing on Google Maps that goes from Finland to Norway. And I believe if I went there, when I came to that bridge, it would be like I had been there all along, because I've seen it so much when I go down to street level on Google Maps. Well, we've been on the road slow motion for about 21 minutes. This video, I think, is like 40 some minutes long. After I think it took me 17 or 18 minutes to drive from the parking lot in LaFollette to Jellico. And I stretched the video out about 8 minutes over the actual time. So I've slowed it down 8 minutes. I always wonder if someone will be in on their computer and pull up a YouTube video and see themselves. A highway is a public space, so anyone that winds up on camera, it's legit, because when you're in a public space like this, you have no privacy as far as the laws are concerned. Foliage sure is green this year. The thing that amazes me about these GoPro cameras, you can see those little notches in the road as they go by. Amazing. I started noticing the GoPro cameras when I was watching some snowboarders. The GoPro has been around for a while, but they keep improving it. And the only thing about this video, that's the road to Stinking Creek there. The only thing about this video stuff, by the time you buy a camera, it's obsolete and something better is on the market. I have 3 other cameras that are, one of them is completely obsolete. The other one had great quality, if the sun was out. In low light, it wasn't much. But I wore one of those completely out. It was a JVC HM200. And I found one on Craigslist and drove all the way to Asheville, North Carolina to get it. And I still have it. The other one, I tossed it. Couldn't be fixed. And then I started watching some of this GoPro. And the lens has a fisheye. That's the only thing. But I really, it doesn't bother me. I mean, like that telephone pole went by, it's bent, see? But it straightens right up. And you can set the camera on 1080p wide, and it still has a little bit of a fisheye effect, but not that much. But with this camera, you can pull it up into an editor, and you can like do a video, and if you have a person standing and you want to lift out a print, I mean, you can lift that print out and you lose absolutely no quality. I mean, it's just clear as it can be. So the fisheye doesn't bother me. And to get this quality with a camera without a fisheye, I've been reading about some of the professional cameras. But you're talking about thousands of dollars for those cameras. Of course, even those cameras, the prices are starting to come down. A few of the companies are making some professional cameras. Of course, you're going to pay at least $900 to $2,500 for one. I can't justify that. Not when you can purchase a GoPro for what you would normally pay for just a real good camcorder a few years ago. And this GoPro has all kinds of connectors that you can purchase. You can purchase little mounts that you can mount on your dash. They have roll bar mounts for the GoPro. And the next item that I want to get is a unit that you plug into your cigarette lighter and place a USB connector in it, and you can power your GoPro up. And GoPro has a function. It's a continuous loop. And if you had that set up to where you could power your GoPro from your cigarette lighter, you could let it run continuously. And when it got to the end, either a 32 gig or a 62 gig, it would overwrite. That way, you could just let it run. And then, if you came up on something that was newsworthy, you would have it. And you wouldn't have to worry about it. You wouldn't have to be turning your camera on and off. But that's a good function on this camera. If you're contemplating purchasing a GoPro, I highly recommend it. Even the sun glare is not really that bad. It's just a great camera. For the money, you can't beat it. See, you can see down through the trees there as we go by. That just amazes me, how this little camera picks up such amount of detail. I don't know if we're... there's a place on this road. Most of 25W is exactly where it's always been. But there's one part after you pass the cutoff on Highway 90 at Morley. And I can remember when the road went down and curved around and came back up. And then they bypassed that part of the 25W. And you can see the old highway protruding out of the bank. If you're ever on 25W, when you pass Morley, look to your left, and there's an area up there. If you're old enough, you can remember where the old road was at. But if you're not, after you pass Morley, if you look to the left, you can see the old concrete road protruding out of the bank. Traveled this road a many a time. My grandmother lived in Jellico, and I was born at Anthrace, and you cut on Highway 90 there at Morley and go back up and cross Tackett Creek, Anthrace, and I also lived at Egan. I went to school at Egan in the 4th grade. So this, I can remember coming, that's the Dripping Rock right in there. I can remember coming during the Second World War when they had the troop train wreck. I did a Jellico Road video where I mentioned all this stuff, so I'm probably repeating myself, but if you didn't see that video, during the war, things were rationed, but anyway, the troop train wrecked off to the right, and we were on our way to my grandmother's house, and I can see that just like it was yesterday, those cars down there in the creek. But during the war, things were rationed, and they had synthetic inner tubes for the tires. Sometimes when my family would come to Jellico, my dad would do nothing but fix flat tires. I mean, we were always having flats. And those old inner tubes were synthetic and they were red. I can remember you couldn't even make a flipper out of one of them because when you'd pull it back, if you let it lay out in the sun, it would dry out and get brittle and break. So you can imagine how many flats people had back then. And you couldn't get rubber because it was rationed during the Second World War. That was a different time in America. It's kind of a tragic time, but it was, you know, time waits on no one. Sounds like I'm trying to get philosophical, which is par for the course with me. I'm sure this trip is just boring you to death, but you can watch what part of it you want to watch. And I'll leave it out here for those like me that like to watch road videos, because there may be somebody in Finland or Norway watching this that will never be in this part of the world, but you can kind of get a little bit of a a flavor of the place. I know that's what I do when I go over there. The first thing I do when I get on YouTube is I see if anyone has posted any new videos, road videos in Norway, especially up in the northern part of Norway. And I discovered, and you can search this on YouTube. There's a guy. He has a series of videos, and he's flying a glider. And he's using GoPro cameras, and it's clear, but it's amazing. He's flying out of Utah, and he goes up to like 18,000 feet. He's using oxygen in that glider. But it's really interesting to watch. He has one video like is an hour and a half or something where he's on a flight. And I mean, it's really great to watch. It's amazing what they can do with those gliders. If stuff like that interests you, you can find him by just placing glider in the search function of YouTube. And you won't be disappointed. I can't remember what his name is, but his videos pop up when you put glider. This video I will end just before I turn on Interstate 75 to come back to LaFollette or Caryville. Excuse me. And the next video I do, I don't know if I'll post it tonight. I'll try to post this one. But on the one from Jellico to Caryville on Interstate 75, I'll call that Looking Back, going to Caryville from Jellico. And the traffic was heavy traffic today on the interstate. And I recorded this video the 8th of August, 2014. I started out at about 3:30 in the afternoon, and I made the complete circle back to LaFollette. The complete trip only took me an hour and 21 minutes or an hour and a half. But as you can tell, I've slowed this video down. Otherwise, everything would be going by. It looks like it's going faster than it really is. It's just like when you're in an automobile, if you look out to the side, it looks like everything is just zipping by. But you're really not going that fast. But recording 60 frames per second, you can slow this thing down. This is the first video I ever did, road video, using the 720 setting. I think it's like 1240 times 720 p60, something around there. It's not 1920. What is it, 1240? That's close enough. Somebody watching this video is probably saying it's whatever it is. I'm famous for just hitting the highlights of things. And I guess it's because, and I've always been that way, even studying new procedures, and I used to do that even in my work. I was only interested in what it took me to do what I needed to do. And if I didn't need to quote something, it wasn't that important to me. For example, if I had decided to teach a a class in doing GoPro videos, then I'd have it all down. But I'm not going to do that. So, and I'm not selling GoPros. I'm just using it for my hobby. So that's why when a lot of times I have to think, is it 1980 times 1020 or is it 1920 times 1080? It's 1920 times 1080p. And then you can set it on 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second. I could have recorded this using 120 frames per second, but I figured that was an overkill. When I could get the effect that I wanted to get on this video by using 720p. Sorry I don't have more to say. I was sitting at the house and I thought, well, I need to test that 720 setting on the GoPro. And so I hooked the thing to the rear of my car, and it's got 2 suction cups on it. I don't trust them, so I have a nylon rope that I tie it off on my back windshield wiper. That way, if it did come loose, I wouldn't lose my camera into the road. But the container that this little GoPro sits in, it's a waterproof container, and it's heavy plastic, and it's advertised to go down, I think, now here I go again, I'm not sure. I'm going to say 131 feet, which is pretty deep. I just snapped it closed. When I do these videos, I always put it in this waterproof container. That way, if it started raining, I'd just let it go, because it's not going to get wet. And the waterproof container has got some pretty good outer controls that you can use that are also waterproof. I probably told you my computer that I built a few years ago bombed. Couldn't fix it. It's a hardware problem. The CPU, I was using an i5, and that thing, my fans were working, and I don't know if I overclocked it but anyway, when a CPU goes, you can't repair them. So I just had to use that computer for some parts. It had a Blu-ray player in it. So I pulled the Blu-ray out and stored it away. We're getting close to Jellico, and where I turned to go on 75 South to Caryville from Jellico looking back. I could have reversed this video and called it from Jellico to LaFollette, but it would have looked like everybody was driving their cars backwards. I didn't want to do that. About to sneeze. Oh, excuse me. Oh, excuse me. So much for live jabbering. I probably could have jabbered a little more than I did, but I didn't want to start telling tall tales. I figure by now either most of you already have turned this thing off or turned my jabbering down. Look at that sky. It's beautiful. If you're watching this video, you will not be able to watch it in anything other than 720. You can't go to 1080 with it, but it's clear enough the way it is. My mother and dad grew up in Jellico. My grandmother lived up on Black Oak. That's where my mother was living when she met my dad. My dad was quite a few years older than my mother. And my dad was worked in the hospital in San Antonio, Texas, the Army hospital down there, during the First World War, not the Second, but the First. But he grew up in Jellico. Worked in the coal mine there when he was young, and then spent most of his life as a coal miner. He was born in 1893. That's amazing. I forget when my mother was born. I can't remember the exact date, but she was a lot younger than my dad. I think she was only like 16 when they got married. Don't quote me on any of that. I'm the world's worst for getting dates and things correct. I come close, but close only counts in horseshoes. Well, I end this video as I get ready to get on Interstate 75, and I'll try to post that one shortly. Bye, everybody.